Hi everyone, this is TSM Reginald and I'm going to show you how to play Lissandra. This is our video guide and let's get this started. Now let's talk about Lissandra's abilities. She has Iceborne as her passive, which lets her cast a free ability every 18 seconds. And this cooldown is reduced by 1 second whenever Lissandra impairs an enemy's movement. So this ability is very strong in lane because it gives you free harass and it's basically additional mana, mainly because early game champions tend to run out of mana, they harass a lot. However, on Lissandra, you're able to cast more spells in lane against your opponents. This ability is generally very good in lane, however, once it gets out of laning phase, it's not used that much because AP carries start getting blue buffs, they start having a lot more mana, and this passive isn't generally used at all after laning phase. However, you need to take advantage of this passive when you're in lane. It is just so strong. Her next ability is Ice Shard. It's really her bread and butter spell. It's most of her damage, but it's very short range. You generally want to use this spell against the enemy minions to bounce back on the champion. It's very short range spell, so Lissandra's not very strong in lane. However, if you use it effectively, you can win your lane. Let's talk about her next ability, Ring of Frost. It's very strong for engaging. It's a CC. It's an AoE CC that catches targets around her. And it's very good for engaging, good for peeling, and good for escaping. You generally use this spell when you're running away or engaging on an enemy. Glacial Path. Lissandra creates an ice claw that deals magic damage. Reactivating its ability transports Lissandra to the claw's current location. Basically what that means is you can teleport to the projectile while it's moving, and I think that's really cool, but it's really hard at the same time. I think this is her hardest ability to use, mainly because the projectile moves so slow that it's very hard to land on enemy targets. You generally want to use this ability to just get to a certain location. Frozen Tome is her final ability and it's her ultimate. I would probably say this is my favorite spell, mainly because I think it's really cool. What it does is you can cast it on yourself and make it so that you're untargetable, so it's like a Zanya's, and it does damage AoE around you. It also allows you to use it on a target, which stuns them for 1.5 seconds, and it makes it so that they're suppressed and they cannot move and they're stunned. So they can't really cast any spells as well. It's usually used on yourself when you're engaging into a very big enemy, but however, early game, mid game, you want to cast this on one target. So you can pick people off and you can just burst targets down. So for starting items, I go with a Fairy Charm for mana sustain. What that means is it's gonna help me cast more spells in lane, and it also builds into Athene's or Morello's in the future. I go with 5 health potions for sustain in lane because the Lissandra's very weak in lane, and you need the health potions to counter trade with your opponents. A Word for Vision to prevent yourself from being ganked, and a mana potion to help you cast more spells. My core items are Zanya's Hourglass and Morello's or Athene's. I generally build Athene's when I'm playing against another AP mid or 2 AP mids, and it gives me enough mana to just farm, and also gives me enough magic resist for survivability. There are times when I go Morello's is when I'm playing against a weaker AP carry, which gives me more room for more damage, and building Morello means that I'm going to go for more damage instead of defense. And Morello's is also very good because it gives me mana regen, AP, and CDR. Lissandra's Lissandra's abilities are generally high cooldown, so what that means is you want CDR to reduce the cooldown, so that means you can do a lot more damage. After building Zanya's and Morello's, I tend to go down to Death Cap and Void Staff and Sorcery Boots. Sometimes I build Abyssal against double AP, and sometimes I build DFG for more burst. And for survivability, I generally build full damage with Zanya's Hourglass. However, sometimes building GA and Warmogs might be an option depending on who you're playing against. On Lissandra, I go with 15 AP for Quints. What that really does is it provides me with strong early game and it helps me harass, mainly because Lissandra is very weak early lane. I go with Armor Seals, 13 armor, and that really helps with my laning phase as well because Lissandra is not very strong early game. It helps against ganks, it helps against trades, and the Armor Seals are just a must-have. On Glyphs, I go with a flat magic resist because when you're playing against AP carries or just general AP damage, the Glyphs really help overall. Like, it just helps your early phase, mainly because Lissandra is very weak, and it helps you get into the mid game, late game phase where Lissandra shines. And then for marks, I go with Flat Magic Pen. Those are very standard marks for Lissandra because you're AP carry, you want to do as much damage as possible. Now let's look at the Masteries. For Lissandra, I go with 2109. I usually go with this tree mainly because Utility is just way too good on AP carries. It gives you the extra buff timer, the mana regen, and reduced cooldown on the summoner spells. 21 in offense is a must-have on Lissandra, mainly because she doesn't really do that much damage. She's mainly for utility. However, you really need to do enough damage to be able to kill targets because you're an AP caster. If you land all of your spells, the target should die. So going 21 into offense is essential. Overall, I think Lissandra is a great champion, but she's not very strong in solo queue at all. She's mainly used for competitive play because she just brings so much to a team. However, she's not a strong individual character. So overall, you have to really play Lissandra to help out the team. There you guys have it. I hope you guys really learned a lot, and you guys can always check out the full guide on solomid.net.